Well, let's get talking very quickly. Mr. Johnson Chukwu is the Chief Executive Officer of Kari Assets Management Limited. He joins me now to break this down and understand what this figure means. Mr. Johnson, thank you so much for your time. We always appreciate you on the program.
Thank you, Tolu, for having me. Good day.
Yes, 22.41% is what we've seen for the month of May. I would like you to first take it straight now. What were you expecting? I know we still have some time before we start to feel the bite or maybe the impact of the removal of subsidy and other hikes that we'll see around food products and food produce and all of that. But first, what were you expecting? Is this fair enough, conservative enough, or what is your take?
Well, I was expecting some uptick, which is what we recorded. Of course, you know that this is a planting season. So in terms of food production, we'll expect that available food in the market would have declined. And that's why you saw the food inflation drive up inflation. Of course, a food inflation that came at a rate of 24.82% in the month of May was actually the major propelling factor for the inflation rate that we saw of 22.41%. If you compare that to the preceding month's April inflation of 22.22%, you can actually say it was a marginal increase. But I like rightly pointed out, we are yet to see the impact of the change in the petroleum, in the price of PMS or fuel, because that is going to begin to reflect in the price level from the month of June and July. But as it stands today, I was expecting an uptick in inflation, driven largely by food inflation, which is what manifested. Because if you look at core inflation was only 20.06%. Yes, it was also an increase, but the major increased pressure we saw was in food and non-alcoholic beverages, which jumped by about 11.6%.
Well, it's a good way to start the conversation. But now you're talking about the food. Let's talk about the movement of this food produce from the rural to the urban areas. We know what it costs for a liter of diesel and a liter of PMS at this time. What ripple effect will this or might this have on the final pricing when it gets to the market?
If you consider the fact that you have to recognize that in terms of haulage, the major fuel for haulage trucks is diesel. So in terms of the impact on food, in terms of cost of food, coming from the haulage from the rural areas to the urban areas, you may not see so much of that. But in terms of human traffic, transportation of human beings and personnel or personnel vehicle transportation, that's where you're going to see the impact, because most personnel vehicles use fuel as means of, PMS as means of fuel. So impact on transportation costs and impact on rural and urban inflation will be muted in terms of food items, but in terms of personnel, it's going to be quite high. And like I said, that will begin to manifest in subsequent months, because the lag effect of the change in price of fuel could have manifested in May. Of course, that decision was taken the last week of May or thereabout, and the impact will be in June and July. The full impact would actually reflect in July, when the transmission effect would have been fully permeated the economy.
Other issues at this time, we've opened up, or one way or the other, the central bank sent a circular sometime yesterday that the FX market is now open. Banks can now sell, at their own rates. That competition, that demand and supply market, which some analysts have been talking about. Do you think that is the way to go? What impact do you think this will have, both on the Naira and maybe on the greenback?
Okay, in terms of is it the way to go, you will recall that I have actually emphasized at several of my programs with you that we need to harmonize the exchange rate, and we need to eliminate the rent-seeking window that has been created in that foreign exchange market through the official rate that are only available to those who are well connected in the system. That we need to also create a level playing field. As it stands today, most importers, most traders import using the parallel market rate. So that's actually the market that mirrors the landing cost of imported items. So in terms of import-induced inflation. You're not going to see so much of that. Even those who have access to FX from the parallel market, from the CBN window, do not price their products at the CBN window rate. They still go and price the product at the parallel market rate. Unless Naira devalues further, which should be of concern to us, whether the central bank has a war chest to kind of ensure that Naira trades within a particular band. If it doesn't have that and we see a precipitous devaluation beyond the indicated range of about 775, that could have an impact on inflation. But if all things are equal and central bank is able to come into the market and weigh in whenever there is demand pressure, then we should actually have some level of stability, because today, the rate that is actually used to price goods at the shop floor and the supermarket floors are the parallel market rate. So I don't expect further impact on inflation unless the central bank is unable to defend the Naira and we see a further devaluation beyond the current indicative rate of 775 Naira to a dollar.
But many are talking about monetary policy decisions at this time. What sort of decisions do you think needs to be taken at this time to support whatever will be coming? Yes, we know we still need to constitute ministers. A lot of work still needs to be done. But what sort of monetary policies should we be looking at now for any form of quick wins?
Well, if I were to advise the government or the monetary authorities, my approach would be that emphasis should be on incentivizing productive activities so that we can produce more goods and services. And ultimately, the best way to manage inflation is actually to improve the volume of goods and services produced. Our economy is not the Western economies where you can actually say they've achieved equilibrium in terms of demand and supply. Here, we still have the pressures we have on prices is largely coming from demand outstripping supply. Take for an issue of food inflation. We talked about the food inflation about 24.82% in the month of May. It was driven largely because we're not producing enough food because there is insecurity in some parts of the country and farmers can go to their farms and produce. If we produce enough food inflation will come down. And then overall inflation, all item inflation will come down. So for me, the emphasis for monetary authorities and fiscal authorities should be to improve productive activities. To have an interest rate environment that will incentivize productive activity, another interest that will incentivize people to just put their feet on top of their table and just collect interest at the end of every month. That will not fight inflation. The approach that we had adopted by the previous central bank governor, which was continuous tightening, it has not in any way moderated the inflation rate. If you recall, before the tightening started in last year, inflation was in the region of 15%. In fact, actually 14 and 15%. Today, we're talking about 22.41%. And we've seen several rounds of tightening. We've seen an increase in interest rate, monetary policy rate from 11.5% to 18.5%. And then it has not in any way moderated inflation pressure. We saw an increase of 500 basis points in cash reserve ratio from 27.5% to 32.5%. It didn't have any effect on inflation. So the issue that should be a priority for the monetary and fiscal authorities is to grow economic activities, to grow productive activities as well, so as to bring more goods and services to the market and reduce the pressure we're currently facing.
Before I let you go, we see a beautiful performance of our market. That's our stock market in recent times. We've been seeing pretty figures, the market doing well, and many say that this follows the inauguration of President Tinubu. But put that on the side, my question to you really would be, would you say that Nigeria, or how soon do you see Nigeria becoming that investor's delight, where everyone will want to come in and bring in money? We need all of this money to come in, but when do you see us getting to that point, maybe pre-COVID levels?
Well, it'd be difficult for me to predict accurately on when we become an investment destination, but I can only talk broadly about the condition that will make us an investment destination. Of course, we have started that process of lifting some of those limiting factors, harmonizing the exchange rate, removing the subsidy on petroleum products. There are several other things we still need to do. We need to look at our legal framework. We look at the enforcement of laws. we look at our policy environment. We need to address the issue of infrastructure supply, particularly energy infrastructure, logistic infrastructure. Logistic infrastructure, I'm talking of the seaports. Because coming here to produce, and they are targeting for export purposes, we also want to have an efficient logistic supply in the country. We should be able to export easily from the country. We need to address issues around the security situation in the country. Some of these factors are what will make us investment destination. And then we need to look at the quality of labor, the competence of the labor force. Several things we need to look at. But it's good we're taking them one after the other. I mean, there's no perfect investment destination. Let's begin to remove some of these bottlenecks as has been done in terms of subsidy on petroleum products, as well as harmonization of exchange rates. Hopefully, as we continue to do this, we are going to create an environment that is more attractive for local investors as well as foreign investors. But it would be impossible for me to just say it's going to happen in the next 1 year or 2 years. But for every policy decision we take in that direction, we improve our attractiveness and we will get some benefit of investment through that.
Well, it's a good way to live it. I must thank you so much for your time, Mr. Johnson Chukwu, Chief Executive Officer, Cowrie Assets Management Limited. Thank you for your time. We appreciate this.